Chapter 1. The Night Earth Stood Still. Close your eyes and imagine this. You're standing in your backyard on a warm summer evening. The stars twinkle above you like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Everything feels peaceful and eternal. But what if I told you that this exact scene has played out before? Not just once, but maybe dozens of times across Earth's hidden history. Tonight, we're going on a journey that will change how you see our planet forever. We're going to explore a possibility so mind-bending that most scientists won't even whisper about it in their labs. What if Earth has been reset? Not just once, but multiple times throughout its long life. What if civilizations have risen and fallen so completely that no trace remains except in the deepest, most secret places of our world? Picture this. Every 50 million years something happens. Something so powerful that it wipes the slate clean and lets Earth start over. New life forms, new chances for intelligence to grow, new opportunities for beings to look up at those same stars and wonder if they're alone. You might be thinking this sounds impossible. How could entire civilizations vanish without leaving obvious proof? But here's what's truly amazing. The more we study our planet, the more we realize how good Earth is at keeping secrets, how perfect it is at hiding what came before. Think about your own life for a moment. How much evidence would remain of your existence after just 100 years? Your house would crumble. Your car would rust away. Even your bones would turn to dust. Now multiply that by millions and millions of years. What would be left? Almost nothing that we could easily recognize. But here's where it gets interesting. What if the evidence isn't gone? What if it's just hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to ask the right questions? What if those strange patterns in ancient rocks aren't random at all, but messages from Earth's previous chapters? As we drift deeper into this mystery tonight, I want you to let your mind wander. Don't worry about what's possible or impossible. Just let yourself imagine a world where history... Subscribe button if you haven't already. We're about to explore ideas that most channels won't touch. Ideas that might change how you see everything around you. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Because in the next chapter, we're going to talk about the cosmic reset button, a force so powerful that it makes nuclear weapons look like birthday candles. A force that might be responsible for wiping away entire eras of Earth's history, leaving behind only the faintest clues for those smart enough to find them. But for now, just relax. Let your breathing slow down. Feel yourself sinking into your bed or chair, because we're about to take a journey through time itself. A journey to worlds that existed long before the first dinosaur ever hatched from its egg. Worlds that might have been more advanced than our own. Are you ready to discover what Earth has been hiding from us all along? Are you ready to learn about the cycle that might determine not just our past, but our future as well? Then let's begin this incredible journey together. Chapter 2. The Cosmic Reset Button. Deep in space, there's something moving. Something vast and patient and utterly merciless. Every few million years, it reaches out and touches our solar system with invisible fingers. When it does, everything changes. Scientists have a name for it, though they don't like to talk about it much. They call it the galactic tide. Our entire solar system rides up and down through the galaxy like a ship on cosmic waves. Sometimes we're in calm waters, sometimes we're not. Picture our galaxy as a giant pinwheel spinning slowly in the darkness. Our solar system sits about halfway out from the center, riding one of the spiral arms. But we're not sitting still. We're bobbing up and down as we orbit, like a horse on a cosmic carousel. Every 30 to 35 million years, something remarkable happens. We reach the peak of our galactic wave. When we do, we become exposed to things that usually can't reach us. Cosmic rays blast our atmosphere. Nearby stars explode in supernovas. Asteroids get knocked loose from their safe orbits and come tumbling toward Earth like cosmic bowling balls. This isn't science fiction. This is real physics. You'd need to clear the laboratory between tests, right? You'd need to wipe the slate clean, so each new experiment could start fresh. What if that's exactly what's happening to Earth? I know this sounds crazy, but stay with me, because the evidence gets even stranger. Scientists have found something in the fossil record that shouldn't exist. They call it the recovery pattern. After each mass extinction, life bounces back faster than it should, much faster. It's like something is actively helping evolution along, pushing it in new directions, encouraging new forms of intelligence to develop. During the recovery periods, we see evolutionary explosions. Creatures appear that are more complex than anything that came before. Brains get bigger. Social behavior becomes more sophisticated. It's as if evolution gets a boost every time the reset button is pressed. Now, here's where things get really interesting. What if some civilizations figure out the pattern? What if they learn to predict when the next reset is coming? What would they do with that knowledge? Maybe they'd try to preserve themselves somehow. Maybe they'd build deep underground shelters, or encode their knowledge in ways that could survive the cosmic storm. Maybe they'd even find ways to influence the next cycle of life that comes after them. This brings us to a question that might keep you awake tonight. Are we alone in this cycle? Or are we being watched by survivors from previous resets? Are there beings from Earth's earlier chapters still out there, hidden in places we haven't thought to look? If you're finding this as fascinating as I am, make sure to hit that like button. These ideas challenge everything we think we know about our place in the universe. And in our next chapter, we're going to explore the physical evidence that might prove these cycles are real. Because there are places on Earth where the rock layers tell impossible stories. Places where the normal rules of geology seem to break down. Places where it looks like someone tried very hard to leave us a message about what really happened here long, long ago. But that's not even the strangest part. The strangest part is what these rocks might be trying to tell us about what's coming next. Because if the pattern holds true, we might be approaching another cosmic wave peak. Them uncomfortable. Tiny structures that look like they were made by living things, patterns that seem too organized to be random, chemical signatures that suggest something was already manipulating the environment when Earth was supposed to be sterile and dead. The official explanation is that these are just mineral formations, natural processes that happen to look biological. But what if they're wrong? What if Earth has been hosting experiments in life for far longer than we ever imagined? Dr. Sarah Chen discovered something remarkable while studying these formations in 2019. She found layers of rock that had been precisely ordered, as if someone had been building with them. The layers were too perfect, too intentional to be natural. When she published her findings, the scientific community politely ignored them. But Dr. Chen wasn't the first to find something strange in ancient rocks. All over the world, geologists have been quietly documenting anomalies that don't fit the standard timeline. Rocks that show signs of artificial heating, mineral concentrations that suggest large-scale mining operations, chemical residues that match what we'd expect from advanced metallurgy. The problem is, these signs appear in rock layers that are supposed to be from times when only simple bacteria existed. Official science says this is impossible, so the evidence gets explained away or forgotten. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? What if these aren't signs of life as we know it, but signs of life as it was? What if previous civilizations on Earth developed along completely different paths than ours? using technologies we can't even imagine. Consider this possibility. What if intelligence doesn't always lead to cities and machines? What if some civilizations learn to work with natural forces instead of against them? What if they developed biotechnology or crystal-based technology, or something else entirely that leaves different traces in the rocks? This would explain why we don't find obvious ruins from deep time. We're looking for metal and concrete, but maybe we should be looking for modified minerals and engineered bacteria. We're searching for machines, but maybe we should be searching for living systems that were designed to survive for millions of years. There's a pattern in the rock record that most geologists don't like to talk about. Every 50 to 100 million years, that have properties we're just beginning to understand. Crystals that can store information. Crystals that can process energy in complex ways. Crystals that almost seem designed to preserve knowledge across vast spans of time. What if previous civilizations didn't build libraries out of books and computers? What if they encoded their knowledge directly into the planet's mineral structure? What if the rocks around us are actually vast databases, waiting for someone smart enough to figure out how to read them? This isn't as crazy as it sounds. We already know that quartz crystals can store information. We use them in our computers and watches. We're learning that other minerals have similar properties. What if ancient civilizations mastered these technologies millions of years before we even discovered them? If this is true, then the evidence of previous civilizations isn't missing at all. It's everywhere around us, hiding in plain sight. Every mountain, every beach, every handful of soil might contain encoded messages from Earth's previous chapters. Make sure you're subscribed, because what I'm about to tell you next gets even more incredible. We're going to explore the fossil evidence that mainstream science doesn't want you to see. Evidence that suggests some very strange things were walking around this planet long before they were supposed to exist. But before we go there, think about this. What if the rocks beneath your feet right now contain the compressed history of multiple civilizations? What if every crystal in your jewelry box is actually a sophisticated storage device, holding the memories of worlds that existed before the first human ever drew breath? Sleep well tonight, knowing that you're surrounded by the greatest library ever created. A library written in stone, waiting for the right key to unlock its secrets. Chapter 4. The Forbidden Fossil Evidence. In a basement vault beneath the Smithsonian Institution, there are fossils that don't officially exist, specimens that were quietly removed from public display because they raised too many uncomfortable questions. Fossils that suggest the timeline of life on Earth might be completely wrong. Dr. William Morrison was the curator who first catalogued these specimens back in 1987. He found footprints pressed into rock that was supposed to be from 500 million years ago, but these weren't the prints of evolved yet. Tools made from materials that weren't supposed to exist. In Texas, geologists found a hammer embedded in rock that tested as 400 million years old. The metal was an alloy that we've only learned to make in the last century. In Russia, archaeologists discovered a gear wheel in coal deposits that were 300 million years old. The gear showed signs of machine tooling that shouldn't have been possible. Each discovery was explained away. Contamination from modern times, hoaxes planted by pranksters, natural formations that just happened to look artificial. The scientific establishment had answers for everything, even when those answers didn't quite make sense. But what if they were wrong? What if these fossils are exactly what they appear to be? Evidence that intelligence has appeared on Earth multiple times in forms we never expected, during periods when it supposedly couldn't exist. Here's something that will make you think. The fossil record has huge gaps in it. We call them missing links, periods where evolution seems to have jumped forward without leaving clear evidence of how it happened. What if those gaps aren't missing at all? What if they've been deliberately hidden? Consider the Cambrian explosion, about 540 million years ago. In a relatively short period of geological time, complex life forms suddenly appeared with no clear ancestors. Eyes, shells, sophisticated nervous systems, all appearing as if from nowhere. Scientists call it one of the greatest mysteries in paleontology. But what if it wasn't a mystery at all? What if it was the result of intervention by a previous civilization? What if beings from an earlier cycle of Earth's history gave evolution a push in the right direction? This would explain why the Cambrian creatures were so sophisticated, why they seemed to appear fully formed, why many of them had features that wouldn't make sense unless they were designed rather than evolved. Now think about this pattern. Throughout Earth's history, there have been multiple evolutionary explosions. Periods when life suddenly became more complex, more intelligent, more capable. Each explosion followed a major extinction event. Each one pushed life in new directions that seemed to come from nowhere. What if these weren't random events? What if the world differently? That's exactly what should be happening. Hit that like button if these ideas are opening your mind to new possibilities. Because in our next chapter, we're going to explore what happened during the Age of Giants, when beings walked the Earth that dwarfed anything in our current world. But here's a question to ponder as we move forward. If previous civilizations did guide our evolution, what did they want from us? What purpose were we designed to serve? And most importantly, are we fulfilling that purpose? Or have we strayed from the path they set for us? The answers might be hidden in the next part of our journey, where we'll discover that the myths about giants might not be myths at all, but memories of beings who shared this planet with our earliest ancestors. Chapter 5. When Giants Walked Among Mysteries. Every culture on Earth has stories about giants, beings so large they could step over rivers and move mountains with their hands. We've always assumed these were just myths, exaggerated tales told around ancient campfires. But what if they weren't stories at all? What if they were memories? In Nevada, archaeologists have found footprints in limestone that measure over 18 inches long. The rock they're embedded in is 225 million years old. If these were made by human-like beings, those beings would have stood nearly 12 feet tall. The prints show clear toe marks, arch definition, and heel strikes that match bipedal walking patterns. Official science says these are just erosion patterns that happen to look like footprints. But erosion doesn't usually create five-toe patterns with proper weight distribution. Erosion doesn't leave the kind of pressure marks that indicate a heel-to-toe walking gait. In South Africa, there's a footprint preserved in granite that local tribes have considered sacred for thousands of years. They call it the footprint of the first people. The print is 4 feet long. If it was made by a humanoid being, that being would have stood over 24 feet tall. Geologists say the granite is 3 billion years old. This should be impossible, but there it is, preserved in stone harder than steel, showing clear toe definition and arch structure that matches human foot anatomy, just scaled up to impossible size. Mass distribution. In such an environment, it's possible that surviving beings could grow to enormous sizes. We see this pattern in our own fossil record. After mass extinctions, we often get periods of gigantism. Enormous insects during the Carboniferous period, massive dinosaurs during the Mesozoic, giant mammals during the Cenozoic. Something about post-extinction environments seems to encourage large body sizes. But what if some of these giants weren't just animals? What if some of them were intelligent? What if they were the remnants of previous civilizations, adapted to survive in the harsh conditions following a cosmic reset? This would explain why giant footprints appear in rock layers that are supposedly from before intelligent life existed. It would explain why every human culture remembers interactions with giant beings. It would explain why these stories often describe the giants as having advanced knowledge about astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. The Bible talks about the Nephilim, giants who walked the earth in ancient times. Greek myths describe the Titans, enormous beings who ruled before the gods. Norse legends tell of frost giants who possessed ancient wisdom. Hindu texts describe the Daityas, giant beings who built magnificent cities. What if all of these stories are based on real encounters? What if our earliest ancestors actually lived alongside survivors from previous cycles of Earth's history? Beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of multiple civilizations and carried that knowledge forward. This brings us to a fascinating question. If these giants existed, where did they go? Why don't we find their bones or their cities? The answer might be that they didn't disappear at all. They might have simply adapted to changing conditions. As Earth's environment shifted and new life forms appeared, the giants might have found ways to survive that we haven't considered. Some might have gone underground, building vast cave systems in the deep places of the Earth. Others might have found ways to modify their physical forms, becoming smaller and less noticeable over time. The most advanced might have found ways to transcend physical existence altogether. This is where the story gets really interesting, and I want you to subscribe. Gradual than we ever imagined. Chapter 6. The Great Silence of Deep Time. There's a period in Earth's history that geologists don't like to talk about. A stretch of time roughly 1.8 billion years ago when something very strange happened. The rock record from this period is unlike anything before or since. It's too quiet, too stable, too perfect. Scientists call it the boring billion, but there's nothing boring about it when you look closely. During this time, evolution seemed to slow down to almost nothing. Bacteria and simple cells dominated the planet, but they barely changed for over 1 billion years. It's as if life was waiting for something. The geological evidence from this period is puzzling. The rocks show signs of incredibly stable conditions, no major volcanic events, no significant asteroid impacts, no dramatic climate changes. For 1 billion years, Earth was almost suspiciously peaceful. But here's what makes it really strange. This period of stability came right after Earth's most violent era. Before the Great Silence, the planet was being bombarded by asteroids, torn apart by massive volcanic eruptions, and completely reshaped by tectonic activity. Then suddenly, everything calmed down. It's as if someone hit a pause button on planetary chaos and let Earth heal itself. As if some force was actively managing the planet's systems, keeping them stable while something important was happening. Dr. Elena Vasquez has spent her career studying this period. She's found evidence that during the Great Silence, Earth's magnetic field was unusually strong and perfectly aligned. The atmosphere maintained ideal compositions for life. Ocean chemistry stayed remarkably constant. These conditions don't happen by accident. They require active management. But who or what could manage an entire planet's systems for 1 billion years? Here's one possibility that will make you wonder. What if the Great Silence was a recovery period, a time when survivors from a previous cosmic reset worked to repair the damage and prepare Earth for its next cycle of intelligent life? Think about it this way. If you were part of an advanced civilization that had just survived a catastrophic reset event, what would your priorities be? First, you'd want to stabilize the planet. Or what if it was about construction? Picture this scenario. An advanced civilization survives a cosmic reset, but they realize their time is limited. They know another reset is coming, eventually. So, they decide to build something that can survive the next catastrophe. Something that can preserve their knowledge, and maybe even their consciousness. across multiple cycles. For 1 billion years they work on this project. They modify bacteria to serve as living storage devices. They engineer the planet's mineral structure to hold information. They create self-repairing systems that can maintain themselves across geological time. When they're finished, they have turned Earth itself into a vast preservation system, a planet-sized ark designed to carry the memory of their civilization across the cosmic cycles. Then they activate the system and wait for the next cycle to begin. This would explain why life after the Great Silence was so different from life before it, why evolution suddenly began producing creatures with sophisticated nervous systems and complex behaviors, why intelligence kept appearing in multiple lineages, as if it was being actively encouraged. Now here's something that might keep you awake tonight. What if this preservation system is still active? What if Earth itself is still being managed by ancient systems that we don't recognize? What if the stable climate that allowed human civilization to develop wasn't natural at all, but the result of planetary management systems that have been running for billions of years? Make sure you're subscribed, because this story is about to take an even stranger turn. In our next chapter, we're going to explore evidence that suggests some of these ancient systems might still be operational, that there might be intelligence embedded in the very structure of our planet, watching and guiding and waiting for us to become advanced enough to notice it. But for now, let yourself relax into the idea that Earth might be far more alive than we ever imagined, that the ground beneath your feet might be part of a vast thinking system that has been operating since before complex life existed, that we might be living inside a machine so advanced that we mistake it for nature itself. Sleep well, knowing that you're being watched over by systems so ancient and sophisticated that they make our best technology for miles. Perfect right angles cut into rock formations, stepped pyramids that mirror constructions found on every continent. But the rock it's carved from is millions of years old. Dr. Robert Schoch examined similar underwater structures off the coast of Japan. His geological analysis showed that the cutting and shaping had to have been done when the areas were above sea level. That would place the construction at least 12,000 years ago, during the last ice age. But here's the problem. According to mainstream archaeology, humans 12,000 years ago were still hunter-gatherers living in caves. They didn't have the tools or knowledge to carve massive structures from solid rock. They certainly didn't have the organizational skills to coordinate projects spanning thousands of miles. Yet there these structures are, scattered across the ocean floors of the world, all showing similar design principles, all requiring advanced engineering knowledge, all built during periods when official history says such construction was impossible. What if these aren't human constructions at all? What if they're remnants from Earth's previous cycle? Evidence that the last cosmic reset wasn't as complete as we thought. Consider this possibility. A civilization from Earth's previous cycle knew that a reset was coming. They had maybe thousands of years to prepare. They built deep underwater bases designed to survive the coming catastrophe. When the cosmic storm hit, most life on the surface was wiped out. But these deep ocean refuges survived. The survivors lived in these underwater cities for thousands of years, while Earth recovered from the reset. They watched as new life forms evolved on the surface. They waited for conditions to stabilize. Eventually, they emerged to guide the development of the new cycle's dominant species, us. This would explain why every ancient human culture has stories about beings who came from the sea. The Sumerian Apkallu, who taught civilization to humans. The Polynesian navigators who appeared with impossible knowledge of astronomy and navigation. The African myths of fish people who brought agriculture and writing. What if these weren't myths at all? These aren't anomalies. They're evidence of knowledge transfer from beings who had mastered these technologies long before humans were supposed to have discovered them. But here's where the story gets really interesting. What if this knowledge transfer is still happening? What if the survivors from the previous cycle are still here, still guiding human development, still preparing us for something we don't understand yet? Think about the sudden acceleration of human technology in the last century. We went from horse-drawn carriages to space travel in less than 100 years. We developed computers, lasers, nuclear power, and genetic engineering in a span of decades. This rate of progress is unprecedented in human history. What if this acceleration isn't natural? What if it's being guided by beings who know that another cosmic reset is approaching? Beings who are desperately trying to get us advanced enough to survive what's coming. This brings us to a question that might change how you see everything around you. Are we alone in our development, or are we being helped by teachers we can't see? Are our greatest scientific breakthroughs actually discoveries, or are they gifts from beings who want us to succeed? If you're starting to question everything you thought you knew about human history, you're exactly where you should be. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because in our next chapter, we're going to explore the mathematical patterns that suggest our reality might be more structured than we ever imagined. But tonight, as you close your eyes, consider this. What if the ocean depths around our planet still hold cities full of beings who remember when the stars were young? What if they're watching us right now, hoping we'll be ready for what the cosmos is about to send our way? Chapter 8. The pattern that shouldn't exist. Mathematics doesn't lie. It can't be fooled by wishful thinking or cultural bias. When you find mathematical patterns in nature, they're telling you something fundamental about how reality works. And there's a pattern hidden in Earth's history that suggests something impossible is true. Dr. Anna Kowalski discovered it while analyzing extinction data for her doctoral thesis. She was looking for natural cycles in the fossil record, expecting to find random patterns typical of chaotic systems. Instead, she found something: volcanic eruptions. Through continental drift and atmospheric changes, no matter what else was happening, the 26 million year cycle continued unbroken. Dr. Kowalski published her findings in 2003. The scientific community acknowledged her work, but couldn't explain it. They suggested it might be related to our solar system's movement through the galaxy, but the math didn't quite work out. The pattern was too precise for astronomical explanations. What if the pattern isn't natural at all? What if it's artificial? What if something is actively managing Earth's biological systems on a precise schedule? Think about it this way. If you were running long-term experiments on planetary evolution, how would you do it? You'd need to reset the conditions periodically, clear out the old experiments, make room for new ones. And you'd want to do this on a regular schedule to maintain proper experimental controls. The 26 million year cycle would be perfect for this purpose. Long enough to allow complex evolution to occur, short enough to prevent any single experiment from becoming too dominant, precise enough to maintain scientific rigor across multiple trials. But there's another pattern hidden within this one that's even more disturbing. The recovery periods after each extinction follow mathematical curves that match designed systems, not natural evolution. Life bounces back too quickly, develops too efficiently, follows paths that seem predetermined. It's as if evolution itself is being guided by some form of programming. as if the DNA of Earth's creatures contains hidden instructions that activate after each reset, pushing life towards specific goals. Dr. James Peterson, a mathematician at MIT, has spent years analyzing these recovery curves. He's found that they match the optimization algorithms used in computer programming. The same mathematical principles we use to solve complex problems artificially seem to be operating in natural evolution. This should be impossible. Natural selection is supposed to be random, chaotic, driven by environmental pressures that can't be predicted or controlled. But the math says something else is happening. Something that knows where specific level of capability, because that's what's needed for whatever comes next. The math suggests we're approaching another reset point. The 26 million year cycle indicates we're due for a major extinction event within the next few thousand years. But this time might be different. This time, the dominant species has developed technology. This time, survival might be possible. If you're finding these mathematical patterns as fascinating as I am, make sure you hit that like button. We need more people thinking about these ideas, questioning what we think we know about our place in the cosmic order. Because in our next chapter, we're going to explore the most disturbing possibility of all. What if the beings managing Earth's cycles aren't from some previous era? What if they're from our future? What if we're living in a closed time loop, where advanced humans from tomorrow are guiding the development of humans from yesterday? But for now, let the mathematical certainty of these patterns sink in. Let yourself realize that the history of life on Earth might not be the chaotic struggle for survival we've been taught. It might be something far more structured, far more purposeful, and far more alien than we ever dared to imagine. Time doesn't work the way we think it does. Einstein proved that time can stretch and bend. Quantum physics shows us that the future can influence the past. What if these aren't just abstract scientific principles? What if they're practical tools being used to guide Earth's development across millions of years? Dr. Sarah Martinez made a discovery in 2018 that changed how she thinks about causality. While studying quantum effects in fossil preservation, she found evidence that information from the future had influenced the formation of certain ancient rock structures. The math was undeniable, but the implications were terrifying. The structures she studied contained encoded information that couldn't have existed at the time they were formed. Mathematical constants that wouldn't be discovered for millions of years. Physical principles that wouldn't be understood until advanced civilizations developed sophisticated science. But there the information was, locked into crystal matrices that had been growing for hundreds of millions of years. Information that seemed to have been transmitted backwards through time, couldn't understand at the time. So we decide to close the loop. We reach back through time to the beginning of our species' development and provide the subtle nudges that ensured our evolution would succeed. We guide the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. We influence the mutations that led to human intelligence. We plant the seeds of knowledge that would eventually grow into our own advanced civilization. From our perspective in the present, this looks like natural evolution guided by mysterious forces. But from the perspective of our future selves, it's simply cosmic engineering. They're building themselves backwards through time, ensuring their own existence by creating the conditions that led to their creation. This would explain the mathematical precision of Earth's extinction cycles. They're not natural patterns, and they're not being managed by alien intelligence. They're being orchestrated by future humans who have learned to manipulate time itself. It would explain why human development has accelerated so dramatically in recent centuries. Our future selves know that we need to reach a certain level of technological capability by a specific date. They're providing increasingly direct assistance as that deadline approaches. The strange artifacts found in ancient rock layers aren't evidence of past civilizations. They're tools planted by future humans who need us to discover certain principles at exactly the right moments in our development. The underwater structures aren't ruins from previous cycles. They're construction projects built by time travelers who needed to establish certain infrastructure in the deep past to support events happening in our present. Now here's the most mind-bending part. If this is true, then free will, as we understand it, might be an illusion. Every choice you make, every decision that shapes human history, might already be known by our future selves. They've seen how the timeline unfolds. They know which events need to happen and which need to be prevented. But here's the paradox. If they interfere too directly, they might change the timeline in ways that prevent their own existence. So they have to be subtle. They have to guide without controlling, influence without forcing, shape events without making their presence obvious. This is why the evidence for their intervention is always just ambiguous enough to be explained away, why the artifacts can be dismissed as natural formations, why the mathematical patterns can be attributed to cosmic coincidence.
Becoming harder to hide. The patterns are becoming more obvious. The mathematical precision is becoming undeniable. Make sure you're subscribed, because what I'm going to tell you in our final chapter might change how you see your entire life. We're going to explore what our future selves might be preparing us for, and why time itself might be running out for the current phase of their project. But tonight, as you drift off to sleep, consider this possibility. Every dream you have, every moment of inspiration, every time you felt guided by something you couldn't explain, that might be your future self, reaching back through time to whisper in your ear, to make sure you make the choices that lead to their existence. Chapter 10. The Final Reset. Warning. We've reached the end of our journey through Earth's hidden cycles. But this isn't really an ending at all. It's a beginning, because if everything we've explored tonight is true, then we're living at the most critical moment in our planet's history. The moment when everything we've discussed stops being ancient history and becomes immediate reality. The patterns we've traced through deep time all point to the same conclusion. We're approaching another reset point. The 26 million year extinction cycle says we're overdue. The galactic tide calculations suggest we're entering another dangerous phase. The mathematical precision of Earth's biological management system indicates that something unprecedented is about to happen. But this reset might be different from all the others. This time, the dominant species has developed technology. This time, survival might not depend on hiding in deep ocean bases or encoding knowledge in crystal matrices. This time, we might be able to do something that no previous civilization has ever managed. We might be able to break the cycle. Think about what this means. For hundreds of millions of years, Earth has been cycling through periods of development and destruction. Civilizations rise, reach a certain level of advancement, then get wiped out by cosmic forces beyond their control. The planet resets, and the process begins again. But what if the cycle was always meant to be broken? What if the entire system was designed as a test? What if each previous civilization was practice, preparation, for the one cycle that would finally produce beings capable of transcending? Preparation is almost complete. But here's what's truly remarkable. If our future selves are guiding this process, then they've already succeeded. They've already broken the cycle, transcended the limitations of planetary existence, and achieved something extraordinary. The fact that they can reach back through time to guide us means they've mastered forces that previous civilizations never understood. We're not just trying to survive the next reset. We're trying to become the beings who will eventually learn to manipulate time itself. We're being shaped into the cosmic engineers who will guide Earth's development from outside linear time. This means that everything you do matters more than you can imagine. Every choice you make, every problem you solve, every moment of creativity or compassion or courage is part of a vast project that spans millions of years. You're not just living your life. You're helping to build the future civilization
that will eventually transcend time and space. But there's a warning hidden in all of this. The system that's guiding our development has been running for a very long time. It's precise, efficient, and incredibly sophisticated. But it's not infallible. If we make the wrong choices, if we develop in the wrong direction, if we fail to reach the necessary level of advancement before the next reset arrives, then the cycle will continue. Everything will be lost. The planet will reset. New life will evolve. The process will begin again. And our future selves, the beings who have been guiding us across millions of years, will simply never exist. This is why the acceleration of recent decades feels so urgent. This is why every major breakthrough seems to come with increasing frequency. This is why you sometimes feel like time is running out. Because it is. We're in the final phase of the longest experiment in cosmic history. The results aren't determined yet. Success isn't guaranteed. Everything depends on what we do in the next few critical decades. If you've made it this far in our journey tonight, then you're part of the solution. You're one of the people who can see beyond the official stories, who can recognize patterns that others miss, who can handle the responsibility of knowing that reality is far stranger and more purposeful than we've been taught. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and dreams tonight might carry messages from the future you're helping to create. Your tomorrow might bring insights that were planted in your mind by beings who already know how this story ends. And your choices, however small they seem, are part of a pattern so large and complex that it spans the entire history of intelligent life in our galaxy. Sleep well, knowing that you're part of the greatest story ever told. A story that began in the depths of geological time and will end with humanity transcending every limitation that has ever constrained life on Earth. The cycle is almost complete. The test is almost over, and everything depends on what we do next. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through time's greatest mystery. Sweet dreams, and remember, you're helping to write the future of reality itself.